Deborah Rose. Hi everyone, this is Deborah Rose with the Facebook Live talk show. Many thanks to Cameron Davis, who is behind the camera. He's with Razor Thin Media, and this was his brainchild, and very eternally grateful because it's just such a special place to come and learn about incredible people in our community who do positive things. So please start liking, sharing. We're going to begin here interviewing Mrs. Ellen Stotts about her new book called Reset the Heart. So join us here in just a few seconds. So I just want to thank you, Ellen, for coming and being a part of this wonderful show today. It's really nice to have you. Okay, everyone, we're going to begin. Today's an exciting day. I think it's going to be one of the most impactful shows we've ever done because Ellen and her husband, Mike, who is actually sitting here in the sidelines supporting his wonderful wife. They're an amazing couple. Many of you in Payson probably have been in front of them. I know, and I speak this because I know they're humble and they won't, but they have helped a lot of people mend marriages, heal broken relationships, and they're just remarkable people. So I'm really excited to have Ellen today, and we're going to talk about your new book, Ellen, called Reset the Heart, right? Reset the Heart, live in harmony with God and yourself. Why is it so important to reset the heart?
Well, first I want to say thank you, Deborah, for having me come, giving me the opportunity to talk what is on my heart, because it means a lot to me that not only myself benefit from that knowledge, but I want others to learn the principles, get to know the principles that God laid on my heart. And it is very important, just like the subtitle says, to live in harmony with God and yourself. We all strive to have the inner peace or the abundant life that God's word talks about. And we can have it. We just do it in a wrong way.
Why do you think that is? Is it resetting the heart? That means you're flipping a switch and it's a do-over, essentially. So the heart deals with a lot of our emotions, correct?
Yes.
And the pain and the joy of living life. And do you believe that I would say that living in this world, everyone is untouched. Everyone gets wounded. Everyone gets hurt. And in your book, you share your own personal testimony about what happened to you as a child, the abuse that occurred, the confusion that ensued, and you had to get right. Could you talk about that just for a few moments?
Yes, and most of us don't really realize when we get wounded, what are the events. Oftentimes we cannot put our finger on this particular event or circumstance that we have experienced way back, many times way back, but we carry it with us all of our lives. Once the heart is wounded, or once the heart has experienced pain, it's not just going out on its own. It just stays there. And everything else we do comes out of that wounded heart. Here in the Western world, we place our emotions in our heart. In Papua New Guinea, you would place your emotions in the throat. So if I would give you a card wanting to convey to you, I love you, it would not have a heart on, like here in the Western world. So our heart is not only just pumping physically, but it is where we place our emotional feelings in that. That's why I called it a reset your heart. So say, for instance, if any one of us, should it be a man or should it be a woman, should it be a child, if at any time pain is created in the heart through a circumstance, like I said, it stays there. It does not go away. And what it actually will do, the heart will remain young. And I know that it's a very it seems such a difficult concept to grasp, but it is true. Say, for instance, if you would be a young boy, 6 years old, or a girl, 6 years old, And at home, there is World War III, a lot of strife, a lot of conflict. And you may have found yourself running in your bed, in your room, under the bed, hiding under the bed, being worried the whole time. What is happening outside in that room? Is that hit mom again? Or is mom running with the knife after dad? Or whatever is happening out there. You under that bed, and you experience that with all of your emotions, and you will keep that inside. And so now you grow up, you become a teenager, you become a young man, you become a young woman, but all these things that you experience, the pain in your heart, it's still there. And so we try to function, doing life on our own. And one day we look in the mirror and say, I have become my father, or I have become my mother, or why can I not do my finances? Or why am I struggling in this area? Or why can I not master this or keep a job? It all goes back to that wounded heart, because it is young. It is still 6 years old, never had an opportunity to grow and mature, but it can.
Yeah, and in your book you said that, well, first off, I want to do a little bit of an overview that you and your husband, Mike is a pastor, has been a pastor. You work with Wycliffe Bible Translations Ministry, and so you've been missionaries around the world, and you've worked faithfully serving God in this community as well. So tell us a little bit about what you did prior to writing a book. I know that you're no longer counseling, but you had a business here in Payson. Do you want to just give people a little overview of your experience and how you know and understand all these, insightful things about the human heart?
And to start off, I am not a licensed counselor. What we refer to, what God led us to work with people, we refer to this as pastoral counseling, because mostly it is rooted in bringing these things to Jesus. Once the issues have been identified, we bring them to Jesus. But God called me to himself when I was a young adult. And from that time on, he also called us early into ministry, because we were married basically not knowing Jesus, and he called us to himself pretty much a year after that. And we always had a desire to serve the Lord in missions, and so he allowed us to go with Wycliffe Bible Translators, and we were there 5 years. And God opens and closes doors, and my husband always had a desire to go to Bible school, and we were able to go, and he became a pastor, and I was a registrar at the Bible school. Life experiences teach you lots of different things. Even when I was a hairdresser, sitting down with people doing their hair, hairdresser knows everything because they'll tell you everything. It must be relaxing.
Great place to start understanding of deep psychology, right?
That's right. I had no answers at that time, but I had a listening ear, and I think the training to listen is very important.
Absolutely.
Counseling is not speaking, giving advice. I think it's listening between the lines and being able to identify the issues and put them together for the person. And so then my husband did become a pastor, and for the next 11 years I had the privilege to be a pastor's wife and sit down with people and enter a new journey in their life and be on a different side. And so all of that, and then my own personal journey of my past, from the time I was conceived to the time God called me to himself. And out of that, because it was important to me to let people know that if I can apply the principles that I've written about, that how I became free in my physical life, in my emotional life, in my spiritual life, in my sexual life, that I really have freedom. That is the reason I made myself vulnerable, and I allowed the people to journey with me through my life with these principles.
Yeah, what I was really struck by in the book is how well you spell out your process and your healing journey. And then when you came to that realization that no one had truly cared for your heart. And I have a saying, I think if we truly want to go deeper with people, we have to stop saying, how are you? And ask a different question. How's your heart? Because if we ask that question, we can go deeper. And I think, I traveled a lot and did a lot of psychological trainings years ago. And what I learned was so many people, everyone is broken, everyone's hurting, everyone's been deeply wounded. The amount of children that have been abandoned by one or more, both parents, is really tragic. And so many people never have been loved and cared for the way that God had intended us to be. So talk to us a little bit about the application of how listeners out in Facebook land or listening can apply some of this knowledge. I would say, first off, they would need to buy the book. I think this book is profound. It was incredibly enlightening to me, very helpful, and it goes deep. So talk to the audience about what it takes to be healed. And I specifically want to go to that part in the book. I think it was page 185, 184, 185, when you realized that your heart had never properly been cared for, and how your husband responded to that.
Right. When we talk about pain, we need to realize oftentimes we have the understanding that what we receive, such as maybe perhaps being neglected when we were a child, having been rejected at one time or the other, that is what is the only pain that we can receive, that we have. But that's not true, because we have pain in our heart. What we received, we should have never ever gotten, ever. But we also have pain comes what we should have received but never got, such as myself. I never was hugged, ever. I can never remember being hugged by my father or by my mother, or was I told I was loved and wanted. As a matter of fact, and I wrote that in my book, that because I was the fifth girl, I was supposed to be a boy, and I was the fifth girl, so I was rejected because of my gender, and that's not what was expected. And so all my life I was rejected because that I was a girl. But not just because of that. My mom didn't want any one of us, any one of her children. And so I was told, she always told me she wished I would have died. And that is something she did not say in a loving voice, but my mom really did wish I would die. And I am a strong person, and I am a strong personality. And I said, no, I am here, you know. So, but I did it on my own. So a lot of pain. So I had pain what I received, I should have never gotten. And I have pain in my heart, but I should have received. I needed kisses and hugs and being wanted and being loved and being valued, being cherished. Those things we all need so we can thrive.
Yeah.
And so going back to what you just was asking, so my heart basically, and I know it sounds so strange, because I was rejected in the womb, my heart was actually very, very young, 0. And why do I know my heart was 0 years old? Because in prayer, if we cannot put the pieces together ourselves, oftentimes we sit with individuals and we ask them, how is your heart? Or how would you describe your heart? Or where is your heart right now? How would you say, what does that heart look like? I could not answer any of these questions because nobody ever asked me. Nobody wanted to know, and I had no answers to any of these questions. So I had to go to Jesus, because he's the creator of my heart, and he knows exactly what it looked like at any time from the moment I was conceived to the day I am here sitting in front of you. And I gave Jesus different ages, and I said to him, what did my heart look like when I was 8? And he showed me a heart, and it was always broken. And then I made the heart younger, and I said, what did it look like when I was 3? The heart got smaller, but the break was always there. And finally, I had the courage to say, Jesus, only you, only you. You can take me back into my mother's womb, and you show me that heart that you fashioned. Nobody saw at the time, only you. And it was the tiniest heart that I saw, and it was broken. And I said, well, what happened to my heart that it was broken at that time in my life? Because I was not wanted by my mom, and I was not expected, I was not celebrated. And so that heart knew, because I felt, and so my heart experienced pain at that young age. Going back to my husband, he himself, like so many individuals, especially men, they have no recollections of their childhood, and there is so many, it's just like a dark hole, and we don't know how to put the pieces together. But he himself went to Jesus and asked, what does his heart look like? Where's his heart? And what condition is that heart? And he saw himself, because Jesus does give us word pictures. He wants to give us that message, because he's a personal God. He speaks exactly to you what you need, what Deborah needs, what I need. He's not a God just, for everybody the same. He's an individual, personalized God. And he showed my husband a boy 4 years old sitting by the beach. He was raised in California, so it was the perfect picture. And in front of him was the wide ocean, behind him was the sand. But it was a lonely boy. Why? Why was he lonely? Why was his heart 4 years old? And then Jesus began. See, Jesus never opens up a fire hose. He gives you what you need to know when you're ready to ask him. And when it says in the Bible, we don't have because we don't ask. So ask. And he did. So here, when we were married, we stood before the altar. A 4-year-old married a 0-year-old heart. And so how would I care for my husband's heart? I didn't even know how to care for my own. So my husband gave me one of the greatest gifts 20 years later. We did not know at the time when we were married that 20 years later, when we finally embarked on the journey to become free in our own hearts, he gave me that gift. And he said to me, he asked me, he said, or he calls me babes, or he calls me Schatzi. But Schatzi is a German word, means treasure. I'm my husband's treasure, which is so special to me. And he asked me, he said, do you want me to be your dad for as long as you need me to? And you know what? Immediately I said yes. I couldn't believe it. I was married 20 years. Why did I say yes? Because I never had a dad who loved me, wanted me, and just be with me. So my husband did something beautiful. He took me to the playgrounds. He allowed me to be a child. And my heart grew. It had an opportunity to grow and mature. And that's what I needed.
So that's beautiful. How do you care for one another's hearts? So if someone's listening and they go, wow, I really been missing. Like, I think a lot of people go through life and they say, something's missing. I want to be known. I want to be heard. I want to be seen. I want to be loved. But how do we do that if two people come together that have never done any heart work or have never allowed God to reset their heart? How do you discuss that? I mean, what steps have to be taken in order for people to start the healing journey together?
That is an excellent question. And quite frankly, that's when the fabric unravels in the relationships. Because if your heart has been wounded at any time and you carry pain within inside of your heart, first of all, I don't know, maybe the best way to say it is if this would be your heart and something would be on top, like this is pain, then nothing really finds itself into the heart. We need to remove that. Then everything finds itself into the heart. Should it be scriptures or love or encouragement or compliments? And so whatever sits on top has got to be removed. But before that happens, and so we can minister to each other's hearts. And I just share with you briefly how we do this. But when I say the fabric unravels, it's because it takes two. Now, if you don't have a trusted friend or a spouse who's going to do this for you, or any other relationship that you want to establish that trust that they can care for your heart, because it means you be hot, honest, open, and transparent with each other. You have to do this with another person. So what we recommend, and we apply the same steps in our life even today, we come together knee to knee. We call it knee to knee. That means close, cell phones off, everything, distractions put aside. Knee to knee, eye to eye, and we'll focus on one another. And when I want to care for my husband's heart, or for anyone, should it be my friend, should it be a person God sends my way, I ask them, how can I care for your heart today? What would be helpful? Are you struggling with something today? What would make you happy? You begin speaking to the heart phrases. In other words, we take the focus of ourselves and we place them on the other person. Mm-hmm. I am you focused. I want to know, how is Deborah today? Mm-hmm. Now, how is your heart today? How close is your heart to me? Or how far is it away from Jesus? Mm-hmm. And depending on what I say and I get feedback, then I can piggyback on that feedback. And before you know it, you have a true heart connection, a heart conversation. I want to know what's happening here. And that takes time. And we live in a busy world, and we all have 2-3 jobs. Husbands have to provide for children. There's a lot of responsibilities that we have. But what we always say, my husband and I, a principle we share with our people is the 10-10-10 principle. So 10 minutes in the morning each. If you're married, you care for each other's heart. How can I pray for you today? What would be helpful today? What is your greatest need? So I ask, and he will answer. And if you have a coworker you want to connect with, when you get together, you say, how can I pray for you today? Or what are some of the challenges you have to face? I want to be here for you today. How can I do that? Then the second 10 minutes is at lunchtime. Now we can, we can Twitter each other, we can go and text each other, we can give a quick call, or when we come home for lunch, we can do again. How was your day so far? What challenges did you have? Did you get lonely today? What would be your greatest need? How can I fulfill that right now? And then at night, that's my favorite time. If you husband and wife, or boyfriend and girlfriend, you part for the day, or you engaged, then we hold each other in a non-sexual way. I hold my husband, I put him on my lap, and I hold him, and I care for his heart, and I speak very few sentences to his heart. Basically, caring for one another's heart takes time. You have to be other people focused. Mm-hmm. You have to tune into their need, but it can be done.
Yeah, and everyone's different. And in the book too, you have a list of words, yes. Heart affirming words and phrases, and words that are very damaging, yes. Right? So it helps people understand how to speak to one another and speak to the deep wounds that a significant other in your life carries. And we're talking friends, we're talking family.
Yes.
It's just not about husband and wife.
Any relationship.
And we're almost out of time. I can't believe it. You have to buy this book. I promise you. We'll tell you how to get it. But if someone's not in a relationship and you want to be whole and you want to do the work before you get into a relationship, because you can't care for your own heart, which means you're very self-centered, by the way. There is a high level of selfishness that we come into this world with, and it's very hard to put our needs aside and stop ruminating about our pain and our misery and our needs to set aside for another human being, would you recommend that a woman find another friend that is willing to do the same heart work together? Because it would be a little dangerous to for men to do it with women. I think what we're seeing in society is people are really lonely in relationships. Their needs are not getting met. Their heart is broken, and the other person is oblivious because we don't make time to intentionally talk to one another anymore. Like you said, we're so distracted. I think that's where affairs are birthed because, you know, the neglect is very high. So if someone says something affirming or flirtatious, then we kind of drift towards that person meeting our needs and not asking for our spouse to meet those needs, correct? So it should be woman to woman, man to man.
Absolutely.
That must be really hard for men, though, because I know that when you start talking about emotions in the heart, most guys tune out and go, I don't need this. I'm cool. I'm macho man. But I think if men were honest, they're equally as broken, and I think they need healing, right?
Yeah, no, when we have the opportunity to speak with men, and my husband is a Vietnam vet, so he also speaks to a lot of veterans, and they have been wounded in so many different ways that we cannot even imagine. And when he shares with them the heart principles and his own experience, he didn't want it to be touched, and he certainly didn't want anybody just stirring around in his heart and speaking to him. But he said, now, he said, when another man speaks to his heart and he recognizes this as he wants to speak to his heart and he has the need to speak to this man's heart, the relationship is at a place, he said, he missed out so much for so many years. It's the most beautiful thing. And I do agree, we need to keep it gender friendly because you are linking, you are bonding, you are coming together very, very tight. And when we have premarital couples we used to work with, and oftentimes when the hearts come together and the past issues are being resolved and Jesus is brought into all these things, they're always, most of the time, always, they put the wedding date ahead. So not what was originally scheduled, but ahead. Because once we are emotionally like this, we want to be physically together as well to celebrate that. And I do agree. And I want to give you a little tidbit that you can maybe begin that heart language. It's something very easy, an exercise you can do every single day with your spouse, with your children, with your coworker, with whoever you want to have a relationship with. So before you part for the day, should it be your coworkers or whatnot, or should it be your spouse before you go to bed, or your children, whenever the day ends, 2 simple questions. One is the negative. I would encourage you to start with the negative first. You would say, I'm gonna use my friend Deborah. I would say, Deborah, what did you not like about me being your friend today? And
there would be nothing ever.
Deborah could answer, and in order to keep it kind and not to get it out of hand, we don't give a list, we give one item. So if there's something she would not like, she would say, Ellen, I did not like when you interrupted me when I was on the phone. So what I just learned about, that she does not like to be interrupted when she's on the phone. I stole that away. And if there was nothing, she would say there was nothing today. Good for me. But then I would say, Deborah, what did you like about me being your friend today? And she would tell me also one. And so she would say, I did like when you brought me lunch. So I said, yay, she likes that. But going back to the negative, because it's very important how we respond. If she would have said she did not like because I interrupted her on the phone, I can give 2 responses because we don't want to cycle into a conflict. So I could say, thank you for telling me, or would you forgive me? So, and that is the beginning how we will talk to our hearts, and that's the beginning how we will learn from one another what is needed, what the person is longing for. And we are in a generation or in a world, we can have the world at our fingertips. but we're the most loneliest generation there is. When we talk to people to the heart, from my heart to their heart, they begin to cry right away.
Yeah.
Because nobody ever takes the time to speak to their heart. So it's good.
This is a profound conversation, and thank you for coming. We have to wrap this up. So I want people to know how they can get more information, how they could order this book, and is there anyone, where can they go for counseling if there's a couple out there, a human being that really needs help?
Yes.
Where can they turn for help? I think this is a great start, but sometimes we actually need a friend,
Yes.
a counselor, and you do trainings, right? You're no longer counseling, but you do train people up to be biblical counselors to help others. So can you talk
Yes.
about that?
We live here 9 years in Payson, in that beautiful area where God definitely sent us. And we had a full-time counseling office. Our name is Reaching the Heart Ministries, and that may be familiar to some of you. But yet God is calling us to do something different. We need to follow His leading to duplicate the ministry. And so now we travel a lot, teach and train. Going back to the training, we offer twice a year, usually around March and in October, so it's coming up next month. We offer a 1 week intense training. We call it in-depth training seminar or in-depth training class. This year it's being held October 7th to the 11th in our Arizona office, and you could go to www.reachingtheheart.org, one word, www.reachingtheheart.org, to get more information onto the topics that we will be discussing and teaching you. It's a class that goes every day from 8 o'clock till 5. So it is a commitment, but we know you're all busy, so we're putting it all in 1 week. And then we do another class in March. And then when we go out to churches, we usually do a lot of classes and a lot of training for them.
That's wonderful. And if someone wants to get the book, do they still go to this website?
Yes, the book can, when you go to the website, it is there. We have a store. We sell the book, not by selling, but we ask for donation because we are a 501c nonprofit ministry. And it's also available on Amazon. I know Deborah always has them on hand. I have them in my car, so if you see me, I certainly would love to have your copy. It's available on barnesandnoble.com, and so most people do get it from Amazon. And I would encourage you, maybe this year, if you want to lay something especially under the Christmas tree for your loved ones, once you want to reach and you want to give them something, they can find freedom in their physical, emotional, spiritual, and sexual life. Consider giving them a copy of the book. I know it will be a blessing to them.
I absolutely second that calling. And yes, thank you so much for writing the book.
Thank you.
Thank you for caring deeply about people. You and your husband are heroes in my eyes. There needs to be a lot more people walking the talk and also making time to ensure that the heart is safe, protected, and healed. So thank you for joining us today. I'm Deborah Rose with Realty One Group in Payson, Arizona. You can visit my website also at www.paysonazproperties.com. Thank you for joining in today.
Thank you.